Hey, man, you on your way to Philly or what?
No. You know, I'm gonna be putting together all of our wrestling stuff from home today. But yeah, that is. I'm telling you. I know we'll talk about it here in a second, but that's a cool event up there at the Palestra in Philadelphia.
Yeah, let's jump right into that. St. Augustine was lucky enough to be invited to this Who's Number One challenge going on, like you said, at the Palestra in Philly. Tell us about how that came about and what it's all about.
Yeah, Flow Wrestling, I mean, you know, they've been blowing up on the wrestling scene the last few years. It's kind of, you know, they do a lot of the different live coverages and streaming matches and stuff like that. A lot of collegiate stuff, but they cover wrestling at all levels. Those guys do a really nice job. They have rankings. They've got all kinds of different stuff. Yeah, it's, you know, coming off the success, last year they did the Who's Number One matches, or the Who's Number One duel, where they tried to pair up some of the best individual bouts in the country. You know, that did a lot. That was great for the sport. A lot of great wrestling there. So they kind of followed that up with the Who's Number One duels, where they paired up 5 of the top 8 teams in the country now are wrestling today at the Palestra. It's already underway here today. And St. Augustine Prep, always looking for a challenge. They jumped in there with, like I said, 5 of the top 8 teams in the country. So they're going to wrestle. The Prep themselves is guaranteed to wrestle at least 3 of the top 8 teams in the country today.
Wow, who are they going up against?
They're going to, I was actually just following it before we jumped on here, but they're wrestling Bergen Catholic as we speak. Bergen Catholic is the number 2 team in the country. Bergen Catholic beat the Prep pretty handily last year in the state non-public A championship. Just unbelievable. They've got a handful of state champions on the team. Nick Suriano, the number 1 wrestler in the country. They're wrestling Bergen Catholic now, and then they follow that up with Bethlehem Catholic and Lake Highland Prep from Florida. Again, 2 teams. I believe they're 7 and 8 respectively in the country. So, you know, it's going to be a tough day for the Prep, but you know what we've talked about in the past, the last couple of weeks, Billy Ward loves challenging those guys, and you know these you don't get much tougher than the 3 they're wrestling today.
How cool of an event is this? I mean, you've seen so much happen in the last 4 or 5 years in terms of high-level high school football and basketball being on ESPN and all these, you know, teams traveling from, you know, say Florida to Las Vegas to play, you know, a team like Bishop Gorman. You know, IMG Academy has got some great football down there. Miami Central, you're seeing them travel to Alabama to play teams like Hoover. Where do we stand at the high school wrestling level in terms of getting these kids more notoriety, you know, as the top guys and the top teams in the country?
You're absolutely right, and it's definitely kicked over into wrestling. That's a great point. And you know, wrestling to its credit is doing a really nice job this year, more so than I think I can ever remember. A lot of these top teams in the country, you know, there's always debate about, you know, which team is better. Blair Academy, Bethlehem Catholic, Wyoming Seminary, I believe, is number 1 in the country right now by most people's in most people's polls. But they're doing a really nice job this year. Like, they're really wrestling each other a lot this year. You know, there's not going to be as much debate this year because these teams are all hitting each other. Even at this Who's Number One duels here at the Palestra, Clovis from California is there. But Lake Highland Prep is from Florida. I know Bergen Catholic last week was out at the Doc Buchanan duels. I believe those are in California. So yeah, a lot of these teams are challenging each other. I know St. Augustine Prep went down to the Virginia duels down in Virginia last week. So you're right, they do. You know, you've got to kind of seek out some of this top competition. I mean, Southern Regional, a smaller example, they're up in Pennsylvania today, the Escape the Rock duels, or the Escape the Rock tournament. But you're right, a lot of these teams are kind of going out of their way to wrestle each other. You know, and I think it's great for the sport. Like, there's less debate of, you know, this team's doing this, but, you know, we'll never see them wrestle. A lot of those top-level teams are wrestling each other now. So yeah, that's just great for the sport on all levels.
Quick shout-out to my boy John Stout over there at Southern, former classmate of mine at Lacey Township.
Very nice. Yeah, Stout again. You know, he's been doing it probably longer than anybody around here in terms of, you know, he's always kind of known for challenging his team. Some teams wrestle, you know, softer schedules, truth be told, but Stout that has never been a Southern Regional thing. You know, I joke around with him. He's never going to get to 500 or 600 wins as a coach, just because he wrestles too many tough matches. They go to big time tournaments. I mean, they don't wrestle. Some schools wrestle, you know, 25, 30 duels in the season. Those guys wrestle, you know, 10 to 15 duels in the season, and then go challenge themselves with all kinds of tough tournaments because he knows it's best for his wrestlers come state tournament time. You know, you get a fit guy from Southern Regional with a 15-15 record. And, you know, they'll blow the doors off a lot of other schools with a guy, you know, 25-5, 28-2. But those guys aren't wrestling as many people as Southern are. Those guys are battle-tested, and in wrestling, the only way to get better is to wrestle those tough matches. And to be honest with you, in most cases, unless you're Nick Suriano, to take the loss.
Talking with John O'Kane for the Press of Atlantic City. John, did you get a chance this week to talk at all with Coach Ward from St. Augustine or any of those guys about what it's like, going to the Virginia duels or this meet coming up today, the Who's Number One duels out in Philly?
It's random. I hate to be honest, but no, not too much, to be honest with you. I actually did 2 basketball games this week. I was joking around with Tom Farraco from Middle Township. They don't let me out of my wrestling cave too often to cover basketball games. But yeah, I was out on the basketball scene. Covered St. Augustine Prep last night against Middle Township, and then on Wednesday I was lucky enough to go to Middle Township for the Panthers buzzer beater against Holy Spirit. 0.8 seconds left, and Joey Trombetta gets a shot off. They storm the court. Super exciting game. But yeah, we were joking around. They don't let me out of my wrestling cave too often to see some basketball. But this week I'll sit in that basketball trail.
Wow, man, I thought you had Coach Ward on speed dial having a nightly conversation.
That's right. I've got all the wrestling coaches programmed into the phone just in case we ever need to throw up the flares.
Let's bring it back into the South Jersey area, Cape Atlantic League, and Tri-County, and who's really catching your eye in terms of teams and individuals? We're kind of in the grinded out portion of the schedule where you're doing a lot of dual meets, a lot of conference matches, and really kind of getting set up for February. Anything really jumping out at you as a surprise at this point?
Yeah, not too many surprises. I mean, there's always a couple individual surprises. I've been really impressed with Egg Harbor Township as a team. Those guys are wrestling really well. Big win over West Deptford last week. They really hung close with Clearview Regional. We were talking last week that Kayaza was talking about how tough that quad was, and sure enough, they went up there and took 2 out of 3 and almost knocked off Clearview too, who we have highly ranked in our Elite 11 right now. And then we've got EHT's wrestling Absegami, Woodstown, and I believe Haddonfield today up at the quad up in Haddonfield, either Haddonfield or Haddon Heights. You got to forgive me. I was confused the Haddon, but and then another good one today is Buna Regional and Highland Regional, both teams in our Elite 11. They're wrestling in a quad at Millville. That's another good one today. And then we mentioned Southern Regionals up at Escape the Rock, big time tournament up there. I think it's 41 or 50 schools, something like that, up that way. But yeah, you're right. This is the kind of time of year, George Maxwell was saying from Buna when I was speaking to him last week, the head coach over there, the season is getting short at this point. It happens real quick in wrestling. You work your tail off for a month and a half. Somewhat of a shorter schedule in terms of the actual live matches and stuff like that. And now, districts are right around the corner, regions and states to follow. So before you know it, we're going to be over here at Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City for states. You're just trying to get back on Kiaza's good side, aren't you? Giving Absegami all that love. He gives you a lot of heat about that. Got to take care of my guys. There you go. Now, give us a little timeline here. When do districts actually get going? It's terrible. I haven't looked that far ahead yet, but we typically go it's going to be around the 20th, I guess, of February. Then we'll go regions usually that last day or two of March, and also with the Last Chance Wednesday there. And then the state tournament is always that first weekend, or typically that first weekend in March. It's terrible. I haven't looked that far ahead. I'm kind of on a week-to-week kind of guy here. But come on, man. Get yourself in order over there. Jeez. That's right. Well, it's funny. You think I'd have to line up my schedule, but no matter what I'm doing, I'll be at state, so I don't have to worry about it. So we still got a good solid month to go before we get into districts then. Absolutely. And this is the kind of time of year that teams that's what they're doing. They're kind of worried about, seedings and stuff like that. They're starting to figure out where guys are going weight-wise. For instance, Egg Harbor Township. They got Connor Agostino there at 195 pounds. The Dietrich Trumbauer is also wrestling 195 pounds. So typically, they'll do whatever's best for the team as the season's going on. Right. And then when you get up to that district tournament, they'll typically wrestle off for that spot. So you kind of assume, I know Trumbauer's tough, but you kind of assume Agostino's will take that spot at 195 because that'll be his optimum weight. And Trumbauer might be stuck not stuck. I still like his chances, but he might be kind of forced to go up to 220 pounds in terms of the postseason. Right. Right now they're doing what's best for the team and matchups and things like that, and you're going to see a lot of that in the area. There's some teams with a lot of depth. St. Augustine Prep has some choices to make. Jim Brady's obviously kind of already made it known he's going up to heavyweight. Hopefully Jose Tabor will be back. He's out with a shoulder injury right now, so hopefully he'll be back and in there at 182 pounds because he's got a shot to come top 8 in the state and make a run at the state title there at 182. Right. A lot of the upper weights, it seems like this year, are maybe going to have a better shot at taking a run. Tabor is up there at 182 with Jose Soto from Millville, Agostino at 195, Colin Roberts at 195. I don't believe he's lost as of yet. He beat Tabora by injury default, so that's not necessarily but still, a win's a win is a win. And then up at 285, you got Brady from St. Aug and Antonio Rodriguez from Buna. McKay Richmond from Cumberland Regional just came back. Apparently he was getting down to 285 from football season, which is impressive. So it seems like this year it's kind of shaping up to be the year of the upper weights. A lot of the upper weights seem to have a better shot, at least locally speaking, in terms of taking a serious run at the state title here.
Good stuff, Oak. We'll catch up with you next week for some more wrestling. Always great to talk some Matt talk here, and we'll get some more updates next week. Appreciate it, buddy.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it. Always love talking wrestling on Saturdays.
Yeah, man. We could have an hour show just on wrestling.
Absolutely. I'd love. We should try it out.
Maybe one of these weeks. I'll check with Gil and see if we can work that in.
That's right. I love it. Take care, guys.
All right, man. Have a good weekend. Thanks, John.
Thanks.
That was John O'Kane from the Press of Atlantic City. Oh,